Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Rick Fussell and this is the Ingrain Workshop. In today's video, I'm going to be building a zero clearance insert here at my table saw. This is going to be for my full kerf table saw blade, which is an 1/8 inch thick. I'm also going to be installing a micro jig splitter on this zero clearance insert, and then I'm also going to be building zero clearance inserts for my dado stack. That's coming up next here at the Ingrain Workshop. So this is the existing insert that came with my table saw. I have a 10-inch jet table saw that is probably 20-30 years old. And we're going to use this insert as a template to make the zero clearance inserts. I also wanted to point out that, as you can see here on this original insert, it's wide. It's not a zero clearance insert. That way you're able to tilt the blade 45 degrees. The insert that we're going to be building is specifically for a 90-degree cut, and this insert also has 4 adjustment screws. I am going to take those screws out and use those in the new zero clearance insert, and then it also has a slot here for a riving knife. I believe the riving knife is long gone. I don't even think I got the riving knife when I bought this table saw, because I did purchase it used. So we're going to be installing the micro jig splitter, which again is a great safety feature for the table saw. And I recommend anyone that doesn't have a riving knife to use the micro jig splitter or some type of splitter just for safety concerns. So the first thing I want to do is determine the depth of my insert. So the depth of our insert needs to be a little less than 1/2 inch and a little bit more than 7/16 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some 3/4 inch material and I'm going to take and resaw it. Now, because I'm going to be using the adjustment screws, I think it's perfectly fine to be less than 7/16 of an inch, because then I can just raise up the insert to bring it up flush with the tabletop. So this is the bottom side of my treadmill. About a year ago, I had to replace the deck. The deck was a black melamine, but it wasn't particle board melamine. It was an actual plywood like Baltic birch. It just had a black melamine top and bottom on it. I wasn't able to find black, so I just went with a white melamine platform, and then just replace the broken one with this white piece. You know, it works perfect. It's just aesthetically, you know, it's white instead of black, but I had some left over, and that's what we're going to be using to build the zero clearance inserts. So this is some of the scrap that I had left over from my treadmill project, and I went ahead and just ripped them on the table saw into 3 3/4 inch widths. The lengths, I believe, are around 31 inches. This way I should be able to get a total of 2 out of each blank. So for a total of 4 zero clearance inserts. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and make 1 zero clearance insert for my just normal full kerf table saw blade, and then we'll make 3 inserts for my dado stack, probably at 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and then 3/4 of an inch. That's just round numbers, so we can use that for the dado stack. So first thing we're going to have to do now, you can see they're cut just slightly larger than the width of the table insert. So I probably won't have to trim the width up at the bandsaw, but what I will have to do is trim the edges over at the bandsaw. So what I'll do is I'll cut these blanks in half, and then I'll use double-sided tape to put the actual original insert on top, and then we'll cut out the excess at the bandsaw. Then we'll take it over to the router table with a flush trim bit and trim out the rest of it. So now here at the table saw, I've raised my table blade to about 2 inches above the table, and I've set my fence at 7/16 of an inch. And now what we're going to do is we're going to run the blanks through here and then flip them over and cut them from the other side just to rip them down to 7/16 of an inch thick. Right now they're at 3/4 of an inch. and we need our plate thickness to be 7/16 of an inch. So if you're not comfortable ripping these here at the table saw, you can always take them over to the band saw and then just resaw them down to 7/16 of an inch thick, or whatever thickness you're going to need for your table saw. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is apply some two-sided tape to the original insert and then secure it to the blank. So now with our original insert fastened to our blank, we can now go over to the band saw and we'll just trim off the edges here, leaving it about maybe a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch proud or heavy, and then we'll finish off the cut over at the router table. Okay, so off camera I went to cut it at the band saw and I noticed that the double-sided tape just wasn't adhering to the melamine finish on the plywood. So I went ahead and then just retaped it and fastened it to the plywood side that we had ripped over at the table saw. That way the double-sided tape can just stick to the plywood, and now we'll go over to the band saw and trim off the ends. So now here at the router table, I've got a flush trim bit in the router, and we're just going to use this to follow the bearing on the original template and cut out our new template. So you can see here on the back of the original insert, there was a slot here for the riving knife, and the ball bearing didn't have anything to kind of run on, so I kind of just free-handed it. And then we can just take and clean this up over at the belt sander. But as you can see now, using the flush trim bit here at the router, all the edges are now cut perfect to the original template. So now we're just going to take the original insert apart from our new one. And there we have our new zero clearance insert. And now we're going to test fit it on the table saw. And then what I'll do is wherever it's running high, I'll just go ahead and sand those edges over at the belt sander. So before we dry fit this over at the table saw, I'm going to drill out a 3/4 inch hole with a Forstner bit for a thumb hole. Okay, so I took my blank insert over to the belt sander and just cleaned up the edges and just decided to dry fit it here to see if it would fit. And it appears that it's going to fit fine now that I've just softened up some of the edges. The problem I'm having is that I have a 10-inch blade, and in this jet old table saw, it only sits about 1/8 of an inch down from the top of the tabletop, so the insert will not sit flush in the openings. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to take out the 10-inch blade. I'm going to put in my 8-inch dado blade. This is the same, full 1/8 inch kerf, just the one blade. But because it's 8 inches, it should sit down far enough that I can get the insert in the opening. So now with my 8-inch dado blade in, I'm able to lower the blade all the way down, and now I can test the fit of the insert. And it fits in there very nicely. And it comes out pretty easy. It is sitting probably below the tabletop, maybe a 1/16 or 3/32 of an inch below the top. So I am going to have to put in the 4 adjustment screws. But I'm thinking for right now, before I put in the adjustment screws, to go ahead and make the initial cut through the insert. So I'm going to take, for holding down the insert while I make the initial cut, I'm going to move my fence over to the right side of the insert, because my blade is only 1 inch from this side here. So that leaves me with 2 inches over on this side of the insert, so I can use the fence to clamp down the insert while I slowly raise the blade up on this side. So now with my fence moved to the left side of the insert, you can see that I'm able to clamp down at least half the insert, which is going to make this a lot safer operation. And then I'm just going to double check with my ruler here to make sure that my blade isn't going to be coming up through my fence. And I've got 1 3/4 inches, and I know that the blade is only 1.5 inches from the edge. So I should have 1/4 inch clearance between the blade and my fence. So the next thing we want to do is go ahead and start the table saw and slowly raise the blade. So I didn't raise the dado blade all the way through the insert 100%. I just got the cut started, and then I'll put in my regular 10-inch table saw blade and finish up the cut. So here we have the zero clearance insert. The next thing we're going to do is drill the holes for the 4 adjustment feet. That way I can get it level with the tabletop, and then we're going to take and insert and install the micro jig splitter. So I'm back here at the drill press, and the feet that we took out of the original table saw insert are 1/4 inch in diameter. So what I've done is I've put a 13/64 drill bit inside the drill press here, and now I'm going to drill out the 4 holes for the feet locations, and then we can just take and just self-tap them since it's just plywood, and thread these through the holes. But I'm also going to countersink the tops of them as well. Next, I'll just hand screw the leveling feet into the insert to cut the threads. So now with all 4 leveling feet put inside the insert, now I can just fine tune it and raise up the template or the zero clearance insert until it's flush with the tabletop. So now I've raised my zero clearance insert up to the tabletop, so now it sits flush with the tabletop. It's not too tight. If anything, it might be just a little loose. So what I'm going to do is, the old insert had 2 screws, one that was in the end of the insert and one that was in the side. And these are just little machine screws, probably 1/4 inch machine screws. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole in the side and countersink it, and then drill a hole on the very end and countersink it. And then I can thread these out just to snug up the fit and make it a very snug fit. Okay, so now that we have the zero clearance insert installed in our table saw, and we have it adjusted properly to the height of the tabletop, we can now focus our attention on installing the micro jig splitter. Now, it's critical that this splitter is directly in line with the saw blade. So with the kit, we've got the green micro jig splitter, which is for full kerf, and then you can purchase the yellow one, which is for the thin kerf. And I'll leave links in the video description below to where you can pick these up. Part of the package includes the installation instructions. Then you also get a warranty card. You get 2 splitters, and later in the video I'll explain why we need 2. You get the drill guide, the 4 mounting screws for the drill guide, and then you get a drill bit that we'll use to drill the holes for the splitters to be mounted into our zero clearance insert. So the next thing we're going to need to do is cut a piece of wood for our drill guide. That piece of wood needs to be a 1/2 inch thick by 4 1/8 inch wide by 15 inches long. And I've got a piece of 1/2 inch MDF that we're going to make that out of right now. So now I have my 1/2 inch MDF cut at 4 1/8 inch wide by 15 inches long. So now our drill guide blank is ready. The next thing we're going to do is measure down from the top 3 inches, and then we're going to mark a line. You can either mark a line or scribe a line across the drill guide blank. So now we have a line drawn down from the end of the drill guide blank, 3 inches, and I've marked a line, and like I said, you can also scribe it if you'd like. So the next thing that we've got to do is we've got to move our fence over to 2 inches. And then we need to lock our fence in place at 2 inches, and don't unlock it, just leave it locked in place. So now with the rip fence locked at 2 inches, we're now going to raise our blade to 1/4 inch above our drill guide blank. Next, with our guide line in the back, we're going to take and rip a kerf through the drill guide blank, and we're going to push it until we get to the line. Once we get to the line, we're going to stop the cut. We're going to keep the blank in place. We're going to shut off the saw. Once the blade stops spinning, then we can remove the drill guide blank. Next, with the saw unplugged, we're now going to raise the blade to the maximum height. So with the blade fully raised, we're going to slide the drill guide carrier all the way down till we get to the line. Next, we're going to install or insert the drill guide into the kerf. So as you can see, the drill guide has a groove for the kerf built on the bottom side of the drill guide, and we're just going to slide that into the kerf that we just cut. So I'm going to bring you in for a closer look at the drill guide. You'll see here that there's some lines here across the kerf opening. So holding the drill guide from behind, we're going to slide the blank forward until the teeth of the blade line up with the lines here on the drill guide kerf. Once you get the drill guide lined up with the tooth on the back side of your blade, now you can take and use the 4 mounting screws to mount the drill guide to the drill guide blank. So I'm just using a driver to get the screws started, and then I'll tighten them up with just a Phillips head screwdriver. Next, with the drill guide now mounted to the blank, I can take and use the drill bit that was provided by the kit and drill out the 3 splitter holes. Now we have 3 clean holes to insert our micro jig splitter. So as I had mentioned earlier in the video, the micro jig splitter comes with 2 splitters. The first splitter is called the A splitter, and it's got a 0 on one side of the splitter and then 3 positive or 3 pluses on the other side of the splitter. So if you've got the A splitter inserted into your 0 clearance table with the 0 facing out away from your fence, that means that this splitter is set up at 90 degrees to your table saw fence. Now I used the B splitter. So on the B splitter you have 1 positive on one side and 2 positives on the other side. So I've got mine set up right now with 1 plus or positive facing out, which means that the way this splitter is orientated, it's 3/1000ths of an inch in toward the fence. So as I push the piece through the fence, it's going to want to push the keeper side of my lumber and hold it tight against the fence, 3/1000ths of an inch. With flipping this around so the 2 pluses are on the outside, then that would be 6/1000ths, or it increases another 3/1000ths of an inch. So it gives it that featherboard effect and tries to keep your wood pushed up against the fence. I'm just going to play around with it and see which works better for me. That's why I just started with 1 plus or 1 positive. I didn't want to just have it 90 degrees and use the 0, but you can do that if you'd like. I'd like some pressure to be up against my fence to keep my piece up against my fence in case it's twisted or whatever. But you might like to increase it to 2 or 3 pluses, which will put you even tighter to the fence. So again, just play around with it and see what works best for you. I also wanted to show on the drill guide that it's got the 3 drill holes that we use to drill into our zero insert. You can also use that as a storage for the splitter that you don't use. And then there's also a drill bit storage here for the drill bit. So then you can just store your whole drill guide away, and all the spare pieces fit right here inside the drill guide. I thought that was a nice little perk that the drill guide had. So the next thing we're going to do is build our zero clearance inserts for a dado stack. And again, we're going to be making those for 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 3/4 of an inch. So there you have it, an insert for every occasion. You've got your zero clearance for just your regular full kerf blade, then a 1/4 inch dado, 1/2 inch, and 3/4 inch. And as you can see on this one, you know, mistakes were made. I misdrilled the holes for the adjustment feet, and I had to drill those out again. I had originally made this for the regular blade, but I didn't want to constantly see the additional holes and can constantly see my screw up, so I decided to make that a dado insert. But all in all, it works out great. Like I said, you've got an insert for every occasion, and it really didn't cost me anything. This is just some scrap that I had laying around the workshop. Well, that's going to wrap up this video. I hope this video helps you out. I hope it makes your table saw safer. Again, this is a small price to pay for safety. I think the micro jig is around $30, $35 on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the video description below to where you can get both the full kerf and the thin kerf micro jig splitter. Also, I'll leave links to where you can pick up the adjustment feet. That way you can adjust your inserts. If you're new to the channel and you like DIY projects and woodworking projects, then I invite you to subscribe to the channel. It's free and painless. And don't forget to hit that bell icon, that way you'll be notified of all our upcoming videos. For all my existing subscribers, thank you for all the support, thanks for watching the video, and thanks for using the affiliate links. Again, I'm Rick with the Ingrain Workshop. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, have a wonderful day, and God bless.